Hey there, comic friends! I'm Travis, and it's time for another edition of Comic Roundtable. Got my esteemed guests here once again with me. There's Mike, Sergeant America, and Damian, Sleep Reader 666. How's it going, guys?
It's been a good comic book week.
I've had a lot of good comic book weeks, actually. I'm kind of wishing that I wouldn't have missed last week, because last week had a lot of awesome comic books in it to talk about. But that's also good that I missed last week, because for those that don't follow me on Twitter, my comic books took a long journey around most of the United States before they showed up at my house on Monday afternoon as opposed to Friday. So, yeah. Anyway,
recover from seeing you with lipstick on, anyway.
Oh, yes, that's true. My beautiful costume. Yeah. That was a fun week of comics too. We're gonna start out first off. I want to talk about the fact that for people who I've tried inviting on the show and have had problems finding the invites and that sort of stuff, I've decided that I'm going to figure out a way. I'm going to film a video showing all the different places that the invite could show up to be on the show. Because it's a bummer for me that these new people I've had in the past, Tylex the Mighty has tried coming on the show and has had problems. Tonight we've tried to get Wonky Ninja on the show, and he's having problems finding the invite also. So we're going to work something out. I'll get one of these guys to help me out if nothing else. We'll film something that shows where the invite pops up at. So when we do these shows, if you want to come on and talk comics, we'd love to have you on. And that way we don't have this struggle of frustration of trying to get people on and then not being able to. So sorry for those who I've invited and we haven't been able to figure out how to get you on. It starts to get too late, and then I feel bad that if there's somebody out there sitting waiting to watch the show live, that we've had them up waiting. Plus the fact we talk way too long and it gets way past my bedtime. So okay, so let's talk comic books this week. I think we agreed we're going to talk indie comics. We all got a healthy chunk of indie books. So let's talk about those. What indie book is just burning a hole in your pocket to talk about first? Anybody got anything that's just this is the thing to talk about?
Tooth and Claw.
How is that?
Chunk of a comic book by Kurt Busiek and a really great artist that I never heard of before, Benjamin Dewey. Did anyone else get it?
No.
I screwed up, I hear, and didn't pick it up because I hear people are really excited about it. So
this is a mega immersive fantasy novel that also features anthropomorphic animals drawn in a highly realistic style. So I mean, you really believe that these are humanoid animals. It's just the art is incredible the way it's done. It does seem weird that there seems like a lot of white on the pages and a lot of white on the cover, but it made me realize you don't see that much white on pages anymore.
No background.
A lot of times the background drops out and they do white. Mm-hmm. And they never do the black around the edges or color bleeds to the edge. Anyway, it's amazing art. It feels like a really well thought out immersive fantasy if you're into that kind of thing, you know, a la Lord of the Rings or whatever. It doesn't seem like it's going to have a Lord of the Rings style plot or anything. Magic is slowly fading from this world, and a group of magicians get together to try to bring back the hero from the past who originally brought magic to the world. And another cool thing about this is all the cities where the magicians live are floating in the air, and their big magic act causes the city that they're doing in it to crash to the ground, killing a large portion of the people in the city. And there's this magical, mystical bubble at the end with the champion from the past in it, but we don't quite see him. So we'll see him next issue. So if you're in the mood for fantasy, it's really good. It's really hardcore fantasy. There's no compromise, no angle, no thing to make it cool or whatever. You know, it's just total nerdy fantasy. And I enjoyed it quite a bit.
And certainly the first issue is probably worth the $2.99? What is it? $2.99?
Right, it's $2.99, and it must be close to
48 pages, something like that. I hear. So if you're looking at page count per dollar, that that's really hard to beat in this day and age.
Right. And you're getting top flight art, Jordi Belair color.
Damon, how is the paper and the cover?
It's this weird thing on some Image comics where the cover is actually a little flimsier than the paper on the inside.
All right.
But it's all very high quality. You know, it's nice to touch and everything. Much better than Marvel and DC paper. So they haven't skimped in any way. They must be losing money off of this first issue. But I suppose if they sell enough copies, they might still break even. I think it's the kind of thing that will also be great in trade. I mean, I'm definitely happy to follow it month to month. But I think these kind of fantasy stories, they're always such a long-running story that it would be good in trade too.
Yeah. I'm gonna see if I can get
it. You don't like fantasy that much.
Well, no. I like fantasy fine. It's just I went through a stage of reading lots of fantasy stuff, and so now it feels like everything's kind of the same thing. So it's not that I'm not interested in fantasy; it just everything feels the same. So this looks interesting, though. I kind of reached this point where it's like, okay, I can't. I keep telling myself I can't order every single new comic that comes out. You know, it's somewhere in my head that tells me there's got to be a breaking point somewhere.
That's too rational.
I know, and I'm really angry because I've actually missed some really cool comics because I just kind of went Tooth and Claw. That doesn't sound like a very cool name. I'm not even going to look at it. That's not going to pick up. And now I'm kicking myself for not having to pick up Birthright. No, that sounds kind of, you know, stereotypical cheesy too. I'm not going to pick that up, and I'm kicking myself for not having gotten that one either. So I'm going to have to just go forget it, and I'm going to order them all, you know, and the ones I don't like, I'll end up with 3 issues up before I can get rid of them. But because it sounds really cool, and like I said, you know, just to try it out for, you know, $3 for 48 pages, unless it's horrific crap, that's a good deal.
Yeah.
Would the weight have put you over? Because I know you, with your packaging, have to watch the weight.
Yeah.
Right.
So, well, one thing you mentioned is you kind of at some point got too much fantasy, and I am a little worried about that because Birthright came out this week too, and after I read the 48 pages of this and then read Birthright, I did feel a little burnt out on fantasy. And I already read Umbral. Luckily, that came out a different week.
Right.
And I see some other fantasy books coming on the horizon. There was a preview of a fantasy sword and sorcery type of book at the end of Mercenary Sea. So I do think I can only take so many fantasy novels or fantasy comics, just like I can only take so many horror comics also.
Right. Right. Well, all that stuff's gonna there's enough different comics out there now, or not different comics, depending on how I look at it, that they're going to start competing with each other, right? The ideas, the general ideas are going to start competing with each other. There's, you know, I've got a very large palette for sci-fi-ish type books, so I can certainly have a lot more of those on my pull than I can other things. I'm kind of like you. Well, for me, like I can only have so many serial killer type books on my pull, or they all, even the ones that are good, to me, all start to be the same, and they just feel it just gets numbing after a while. So it's why I dropped Nailbiter, because I just felt like I had too many at the time that were that kind of vein. So you know, that's obviously, you know, each to our own tastes and whatnot. I don't know, you know, but that sounds like a good book. Everybody keeps talking about how great it is, so I feel like I missed out by not going and getting it. So I'm hoping the local chain store has it. This weekend I'll get out to it and pick that up.
I'm wondering if if next month Birthright and Tooth and Claw come out the same week, if I'll just let one wait a week, because Birthright really had less of an impact reading it right after Tooth and Claw, and Tooth and Claw is probably better. Well, this issue of Tooth and Claw is better than this issue of Birthright, even though I like Birthright. So it just kind of hurt it to be.
Is that, I mean, better isn't because you got more out of the Tooth and Claw? Because where it's at in the story.
It was a more beautifully structured story.
Mm-hmm.
And the Birthright issue 2 is neither of you read Birthright either, probably. Birthright issue 2 is much less stunning than issue 1, where we got all kinds of revelations. And this is more playing that out a little bit. And there's a hint of an interesting revelation next issue. So it just wasn't. It wasn't a peak issue of Birthright, I think, in terms of its story flow.
Mm-hmm. Now, who writes Birthright?
Joshua Williamson. Does he also do Nailbiter?
I think so.
He does a lot of comics. I think he does Ghosted, and I think he's doing some comics for Dark Horse.
Well, I know the guy who does Ghosted is the guy who does Nailbiter, so that's probably.
So he's writing a lot of comics at once right now, then, because I think he's also doing one or two of those superhero comics that Dark Horse is trying to make work.
Right, like Captain Midnight or something like that.
Captain Midnight and X. I don't know which one of them he does.
Right. I was just curious because, of course, the writer for Tooth and Claws, Kurt
Busiek,
who is, a veteran of a lot of years of writing a lot of arguably really good books. So.
Yeah, and this is really well. Actually, there's one thing. I wish there was someone else who'd read it here, because there's one page that's like the opening page of a novel, and I can't figure out how it connects to the rest of it. Maybe it just didn't make any sense at all.
So those of you 8 viewers that are sitting in the audience there, I know some of you have probably read Tooth and Claw. Talk to us about that opening page, and we'll get back hopefully in the comments. I'm not exactly sure if my comments are working, but it looks like they are. So hopefully we'll get some feedback.
I would not want to drop Birthright at all, but I think Kurt Busiek is a better writer. I mean, as you said, he's a very experienced writer, and he's really putting everything into this, and so is the artist in it. Well, why don't one of you guys pick out a? Now I've talked about 2 indie books that neither of you have read.
There's nothing else you want to say about Birthright?
I think I pretty much encapsulated it there. It was continuing on the great story from issue 1, but it probably wasn't like an issue that blew me away.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Well, I can do a quick one. Dread Uprising. It's one of 2. It makes me very interested to see what they're going to do within 2 comics. But it's been a very decent story, just about somebody's trying to cause chaos in the city, and they're trying to start riots to do some development, and Dredd just has to investigate it. It was an excellent buy. I love the artwork. It was, very tight looking. Coloring was wonderful, and it just gave you a wonderful feel. So I would definitely recommend it. It was just a good Dredd.
Is that the British edition?
Does
it say 2000 AD on it?
No. It's just Dredd Uprise, and I think they're trying to make. I want to say it ties into the idea of. This is sort of a sample of what the movie, if they do a second movie, is going to be about or near. Because in here, it's like, I don't remember how far in here, but it's like, oh, go online, sign up for, join the petition. And I understood there was a petition. I thought it was just a fan-based one, but this is making it so it's like it's backed by somebody.
I don't think my shop got that. I might have noticed it, but
all right.
That's why I wondered if it was a British edition.
Wait, yeah. I guess up in the corner, it's a 2000 AD. I guess up in the very little corner.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, because IDW was doing Americanized versions of.
Right.
And I'm reading Anderson Side Division, and so it must be based off of that. So.
Yeah. Wonky Ninja says that page was set up for the story. That little page you're talking about in Tooth and Claw.
I'll have to reread it because it felt like it was not even about this story somehow.
Hmm. Gee, what do I want to talk about first? Superannuated Man. Talk about this just because I love it. I love the art.
So you still love it?
Yeah, I don't know that it's telling me this great grasping story or whatever. You got our main character whose name is He, who's been getting beat up by the the animal people, have been working him over. They blow up his house. He convinces them that what they think he didn't really do, even though he did part of it. For me, it's mostly about the art. He ends up falling through this this hole into the water, and there's weird stuff going into the water. There's part of this kind of mystery stuff going on in the water with this giant sperm whale kind of thing, and there's this stuff that looks somewhat feminine. It bursts open, and all this stuff comes out. I don't know. I can't even begin to explain it. And other than it just having incredible art, I would never tell anybody to go buy this book. It's one of those kind of books that either you like Ted McKeever, what he's doing, or you don't. I don't think there's an in between. Like I said, I mostly get it for the art and just go along for whatever head trip Ted McKeever's on at the time. Because typically when he's doing his own stories, it's kind of way out there. There might be some sort of meta meaning behind it at some point. I don't know. It could be some, anti, gene manipulation, for our food. Could be the ultimate statement of the book. By the time it's all done, I don't know. But I enjoy it because I like the style of.
Is that almost done?
No, this is issue 4.
And what is it? 8 issues?
I believe it's either 8 or 9 issues is what it's going to be. There was a big gap between issue 3 and issue 4. So.
When you show the art, I feel tempted all over again. I bought the first issue after you talked about it, and it just didn't have enough story in it for me.
Right. Well, here's my thing. I wouldn't get it. I wouldn't get it in this form. If you're not like just go along for the trip, get it in trade. Because it's an Image book. Image, as soon as this is done, they'll put it out in trade. I hope they put it out in a full-size trade. The last trade that Image put out of his work, he did a well, I don't know what Miniature Jesus, because I missed Miniature Jesus. I have to go get that. So if somebody else out there got it, maybe they know whether or not that trade came out in a normal size. The last trade I bought of Ted McKeever's stuff was Meta 4, and it was originally done by somebody else. He had it printed or somebody else, and then Image came back and reprinted it. And when they reprinted it, they printed it at a smaller size, because this book is Golden Age, so it's larger than your normal comic book is. But that last trade was smaller than a regular comic, which takes away from these nice big pages of art you get, and this nice, great black and white, heavily inked stuff. So I'm hoping
odd-sized books aren't as much of a problem on a bookshelf as they are in your comic book box.
Right. But I'm hoping that they do it in trade. They put it out in a full-size trade, so you get the full effect of those nice big pages, as opposed to everything be truncated. So
yeah.
But I like it. I held up this. Did anybody else get The Humans?
I just thumbed through it at the store and decided not to get it.
Good call. So, if 1970s exploitive biker gang quasi-documentary, I watch a lot of movies that are from like the mid to late 60s, and it seems like there was a lot of the kind of controversial, shocking type movies that were out. You were kind of embedded with the deviants and whatever their deviant behavior was, and they always took it over the top, probably far more deviant than any of those kinds of things were. That's kind of what this comic is. It's the biker gang kind of thing, and you're seeing the worst of the worst kind of a thing. Probably very titillating to a 12 or 13-year-old boy who wants to be a bad boy. This would be like a, yeah, cool. Let's hang with the bikers kind of a thing. It was really that. It was very shallow. The art is works for what it is because it's that kind of almost Mad Magazine kind of a underground indie kind of a book vibe to it. So the art works in that sense as being kind of the I don't know. The person's name is coming to mind is Crumb right now, but that's not a good example because his artwork was way better than this. But it holds some of the same elements. There's pages in this that I really prefer not to show you here. I mean, there's some sex scenes that are gratuitous and not needed other than to promote the whole bad boy biker kind of thing. So if that's your thing, this might be good. It's not my thing, and it really wasn't that good. There's nothing in it that holds any kind of interest. There's a lone stranger at the end of this issue that comes wandering into what's happening in the book. The premise of the book is the leader of the humans. These are all monkeys, by the way. They're all gorillas. And there's no explanation as to why that is. They just are. As opposed to instead of being people, they're monkeys. The leader of the gang, the humans, died. They bury him. Another gang shows up. They get into a gang fight for a little bit. Gang fight ends. The humans go back to their gang house, have a big old drug craze, sex craze party, and that's the end of the issue. Except for at the very end, a lone stranger looks like he's wandering into their gang place, and that's it. So I don't know. Had quite a bit of conversation with some people on Twitter about it, and I'll end up getting up to issue 3, I think, because I ordered that far, but that's only because I ordered them in advance. It would take something really amazing to happen in the next issue for me to even contemplate ordering another issue. So this is one of those books that if I were buying off the shelf, I bought the first one, and I guarantee I wouldn't buy another one. So.
Well, T. Bird, who used to be T-Rex, did a second video on it. Because I guess overnight she thought about it and liked it even less.
Yeah.
When I flipped through it, I thought of it as being like if anyone knows who S. Clay Wilson is.
Yes, thank you.
Like a poor man's S. Clay Wilson.
Yes.
I mean,
yes.
S. Clay Wilson is really committed to his art form, even though it's has the attitudes of a 14-year-old. But or what a 14-year-old would think is transgressive.
Right, but he has a style. He has a style.
He has a very intense style, so this was like a poor man's version of that.
Thank you. I could not think of the name that I wanted to go with, but that definitely works. Yeah. I told T that she was too kind the first time she did the video. Because it's not. It's like I said, I'm sure there's a niche that will think it's great as that quasi kind of exploitive. If you're going to read it for the deviant that. But it doesn't even really, in my opinion, nail that down well. I could appreciate it for that if it really committed to that and nailed it down hard, but they didn't. They just kind of flirted with the bits and pieces of it and never really committed to that. So it's not anything. And that's the problem with it. Like I said, it wouldn't be a book for me anyway, but I could appreciate it for that if it really committed completely to that, and it just never really did.
Yeah, and she seemed to be wondering a lot about how it got published by Image in the first place. And it does seem like, I think it said that to me on Twitter. But anyway,
she mentioned it somewhere that she wanted to know why. Keenan Marshall Keller is the writer, and Tom Neely is the artist. I am not familiar with any of their other work right offhand. Now, I haven't gone and looked to see what else maybe they did, and I don't remember their names.
I wondered if Image wants to keep pumping out new books and is running out, to fill their roster of new number ones. They're running a little low. I mean, they've got good people like Kurt Busiek, but they want more.
I don't know. Sticking it to the man. I don't know that it's just a matter of we just need to keep putting out number ones. I think to some degree somebody's committed to let's put something different out. This is different. This
That's
is
true.
not like anything else out there. And despite me beating this up, I'm not beating it up because it's different. I'm
Right.
beating it up because I don't think it got executed like it should. But I mean, kudos to them for putting out something different. It's not a sci-fi, other than it's monkey guys. But there's nothing sci-fi about it. They're gangers. They just have to be monkey people as opposed to humans. I don't think humans exist if they're all monkey people. It's just kind of I don't know, to make it different.
Image seems to now have a small subset of their work that is kind of more underground-ish comics.
Yeah.
Like
Punks.
that.
Yeah, Punks the comic, for instance.
The Superannuated Man, right? And this one, which I haven't read yet, this issue, but God's
Hates
God's
astronauts.
Astronauts is
Yeah.
totally just out there.
Yeah,
It's not mainstream at all.
I am so going to be picking it up in trade because I'm far enough behind on it now. I haven't been able to figure out how to cheaply pick up the in-betweens. But this is another complete. This is one of those comics I would never suggest anybody else getting. There's no way I can recommend this to anybody else. I think it's fun. It's a chuckle. Part of me wonders. This is one of those times where price kind of makes me go, huh? It's a $4 comic. It's $3.99, and it's not telling a story. It's not. It's just it's somewhat commercialized punk, is what it is. I mean, plain and simple as far as that goes. It's funny. I like the characters in it. Abraham Lincoln, Abe, Dog, Skullhead, and Fist. I like the characters. It's just kind of a stupid. I mean, in this one, a alter ego of Dog shows up, and he's dressed really nicely, and so they think he's like awesome Dog, and he invades their house, and he fills their entire house with pee. I mean, it's just ridiculous. There's another part of the comic where there's an alien invasion, and they poke fun at the establishment is kind of what they do. I mean, so if you're familiar with the old British sitcom, The Young Ones, it's reminiscent of that, where it just kind of they're punks, but they take it kind of in a tongue-in-cheek fashion. And
is all the art collage?
Yes, all the art is cut up. This bulldog, and they put him on different, and it's just an Abraham Lincoln. Yeah, the entire thing is that. Lots of dick punching in this book. So if you're into dick punching, that's seems to be pretty popular in this. So for what it is,
Now it seems to almost give into that Nickelodeon, or not Nickelodeon, the all those weird cartoons on comedy or on Cartoon Network really late at night that are just really out there. Do you think that's the market for it?
Yeah, I mean, to some degree, because those kind of fly in the face of convention. I mean, it's just kind of ridiculous, and it's also kind of like the Mighty Python cartoon that gets interstitched between whatever else is going on. That same sort of a vein where it's just kind of if there's a plot at all, the plot is incredibly basic, and it's just to drive whatever absurd thing they can come up with doing, whatever the punchline is or the gag is throughout whatever.
Well, and like you said with the Young Ones, I mean, no episode ever tied in with the next. It was just all these weird, random, ideas for one show, and then boom, it's done. Never touch on it again, and that's why I was wondering if it's almost like a test run for, if they would try and farm it out to one of these channels.
Yeah. Well, it's just kind of a, I don't know. I don't know how long the book's even going to last. I'm suspicious as to how, how long it will have a, everybody that I know that's reading it, I think most of us are enjoying it. We think it's fun. But if we start getting cramped for books and we have to think about what we're not going to get, that one's quickly on the list. As much as I enjoy it, it is a $4 comic versus there are a lot of other $4 comics that, whereas it's fun to read, I get a lot more out of a lot of the other comics I read because it's relatively shallow. There's no depth to it. I don't stay awake at night or think about it while I'm at work or doing anything else at all. It's just kind of you read it for what it is and toss it off to the side kind of a thing. So.
Well, it seems like going through Image, a book like that's getting a lot more readership than it normally would. I mean, normally it would be in a zine section or something.
Right.
So, so Image is using their clout to get this in front of a bigger audience, even if it's still a small part of the regular audience.
Yeah, it's one of those kind of things where I think it's definitely that it's making a kind of a commercialized what would typically be a much more of a zine type format. So I don't know. Like I said, I don't know how long it'll last. I'd be surprised. Any other books you want to talk about? I think we all probably bought different books.
Damien actually mentioned it. Mercenary Sea.
Awesome. Yeah, you can talk about Mercenary Sea.
Yes. Finally one we both got.
Yeah.
There's so many good indies, we could all get different ones. Did you like this issue?
Yes, I like the whole story. In fact, I heard some people talk about it, and so I had actually go to a store in Omaha to purchase like the first 3 or 4 issues before I jumped on. It's you guys like Velvet and a lot of those noir, and this is almost like I think the stylized, tough version of McHale's Navy. I dated myself perfectly there, but it's a little fun. It's a little genre specific, and then I have to assume this is all a computer animated because they mentioned that it's art and colors by Matthew Reynolds. With the way it's set up, it gets that strong Johnny Quest feel to me, and it really just feels like it's pumped out of a computer, but I still like it for that.
Yeah, I for computer-generated art, it's my favorite computer-generated art.
Yeah. And I don't know that I'd have 2 comic books of this, but since there's just one, I like it.
Yeah, yeah. Johnny Quest is a great for me, it's like Johnny Quest meets Humphrey Bogart.
Yeah. I think it's just smart enough to not be weird, or dated, or just because it's such a genre. There is certain tropes they fall into. The German doctor, is with them because he had a patient who died because the doctor drinks. There's certain characters that I think I've seen in 100 different places, but it's still not stopping me from liking it.
Yeah, they handle the cliches and tropes really well.
Yeah.
And I liked this issue that got back to this mystery mystery island he's trying to find. I like that story thread.
And it is good that it has that bigger arc to it.
Yeah. So it was just another. I really like Mercenary Sea, and I know that Travis did not like it. I think Travis is frozen.
Nope, I'm here.
No. He's just stunned by us loving it.
No, I'm just quietly trying not to detract, not to be here going.
I guess my logo down below, you looked frozen. But anyway, well, you don't have to like this, Travis. But for people who did like it, it continues to be really good. And I normally hate overly computerized art, but somehow it works for me in this. This artist knows how to use his computer, at least for me.
Yeah. And I think that's the problem. There's something undescribable on why it's computer art, why it's so genre specific. The dialogue still works. Like we said, the art still works, and even the storyline. Chasing treasure on a magic island while they're still doing all these little side missions where they get caught and they make their way out. Everything there says I shouldn't like it, but I do. And maybe it just feeds into every, secret desire that I don't want to say I want in my comics, but it's there.
Well, maybe it's because there aren't that many comics who are mining this particular. This is very familiar from other media, but not really in comics.
All right, yeah.
At least
and definitely different from, like we said, all of Image's other stuff. So.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm kind of sad. In the back was the
Rain, yeah.
preview of a fantasy comic that the same writer's going to do, and it looked very generic and not good. It's called Rain. Maybe they just previewed the wrong pages, but it was just him fighting monsters.
Yeah, I saw that, and I like that they went with African American just to give it a different taste to it. But like you said, yeah, it could have been spit out by anybody. It was fighter kills these animals, this creature, to some greater theme. So
Right.
I'm surprised it got a second arc.
Mercenary Sea?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, the few people who are buying it, I think, like it a lot. I know Hulk's Big Toe was saying it was his favorite of all his books at one point. Anyway, I don't know if he could. I think he just got back to buying comics lately, actually.
And that's cool. It just didn't do anything for me, so I was surprised to hear that it was rolling into a second arc. Strikes me as it would make a fun TV show.
Yeah. Well, it might seem too much like McHale's Navy on a TV show.
That's right.
Or like we said, Johnny Quest. It does seem like too many merging.
I used to watch Seawolf as a kid. I don't know.
Oh yeah.
So.
At least it wouldn't be like that. What was it? The Pink Submarine or whatever it was called.
I don't remember that one.
Anyway, Night World, I've been pumping this up a lot, and the 4th issue was kind of lame, actually, and it's the end of the miniseries.
I was just say that's the last one too, huh?
And they say they're going to do 2 more miniseries now, and I was kind of like, oh, I was so excited about this before, but now I'm not so sure.
So what failed in this one?
Well, they tried to explain the origin of everybody, but their explanations were kind of still too vague, and it would have been better not to have any explanation of them than having a not very effective explanation of who they were. So, and then they're sort of wrapping up of the arc. Well, how to say it without giving away too much if there's someone out there who hasn't read it yet and plans to, but it just was a trite little gimmick to try to wrap up the arc, but didn't really wrap anything up. And it didn't wow me as much with its Jack Kirby-isms as the earlier issues did.
So Sean Mitchell actually has a question for you. He says, hey guys, question for Damien. Did you read Night World 4? Obviously he did, because we're talking about now. And what did you think about it? I loved it, but I thought Underboss showing up and doing nothing was a little disappointing.
Yeah, Underboss looks like the devil, and he just shows up, and he stands around, and then afterwards he says, that the balance has been kept or something like that. To me, this issue, the art was weaker and the writing was way weaker, and it may have revealed the fact that they didn't have as many good ideas behind all of this as I had hoped they did. So yeah, I don't know. I'll probably get the further miniseries, but I'm less excited than I was after the first 3 issues. So that's all I have to say about that. Sorry, what was it, Sean?
Sean Mitchell. Yeah.
But I'd love to hear why what he thought about it. I agree with him on the Underboss doing nothing. But to Sean, who's read it, I also thought them going inside that book and then what happened to them in the book was too little and too little for all the story that had been piled up. So Sean will probably know what I'm saying about that.
Didn't get tied up very well at the end then, huh?
Yeah.
So Wrath of Men.
Men of Wrath?
Men of Wrath, yeah. Men of Wrath, sorry. Jason Aaron and Ron Garney book. This issue further establishes the legacy of the Men of the Wrath family, which seems to be every generation ends up being some sort of either murderer or heavily exposed to that. We get caught back up to the current time, basically. We find out why it is that the son of the main character in this, why he's being hunted. And he seems really concerned, obviously, because his dad has shown up, who he hasn't seen for a lot of years, has shown up and found his girlfriend who's pregnant. And you get the definite impression in the story that that the son thinks that his dad is gonna kill them all, because that's all his dad does is kill people. He doesn't do anything else with his life. So there's some good moments in this book. Of course, the son, his girlfriend is pregnant. We get a little bit of back history with that and how that affects him. He doesn't seem quite as well. He's definitely not as hardcore as his dad. There's plenty of opportunity in here for him to kill people, and he chooses to do anything but that. He pistol whips people to get away, but he doesn't pull a trigger on anybody. So, I'll be curious to see how much this child that's going to be coming into the world, how much does that affect this current younger Wrath man, and whether or not that's why he isn't as hard-boiled as what his dad seems to be in it. The art works for what's there. I don't think it's exceptional by any means, but it works to tell the story, and I'm not enraptured with this story. I like some of Jason Aaron's other works better, but I'm interested. I continue to be interested in what's going on. It seems like there is a lot of telling us a lot of what's going on, what happened in the past, and I'm looking forward to us getting to more of the current time and these people's interactions with each other versus the lineage of Wrathmen and all the horrible stuff they've done. But I am enjoying it.
Archer and Armstrong number 25 is really an annual.
Michael Jackson tribute.
Well, yeah, yep. And I mean, there was just a whole bunch of little stories, and then alternate covers are tucked in here. So it was nice for what it is. There was a couple of fun things, a couple of fill-in stories on here's what else is going on that you may have wondered about. It just gives background information. So it was good. It just they didn't want to put annual on there, so
anniversary instead.
Yeah,
anniversary. Have you been reading all 25 issues, Mike?
No, I got a trade of the first trade, and then I started picking up from like 17 on, and I like it. It's my fun book. It's the silly thing I get to read. It is, and that's why I picked it up, and I'm going to, grab the trades and catch myself up. So there's a chunk in the middle, another trade or two at least, that I need to read just to be totally filled in.
I was a huge fan of the 90s Archer and Armstrong.
All right.
And I bought the first issue of this new one, and it was too much of a retread. But now it's been going for 25 issues. I don't think the original went that long. So now I'm a little more sort of curious to see, where they can take these characters and stuff.
Well, and they have tied it in with their other books in Valiant, and then they've also branched out, like the third brother from Archer Armstrong, from their history.
Right. What's he called? The Eternal Warrior or something?
Yeah, so he's got his own comic book coming out.
Uh-huh.
And so, I mean, that's the thing is, they keep doing this. They've established a universe that they can tie them in and then pull them away. And I guess that's kind of nice, so you don't have to read all the tie-ins if you don't want. But if you want a bigger universe, you could start reading and just be the Valiant, fanboy if you want.
Valiant Comics don't credit who the original creators of all these characters were, do they? This one was, I believe, created by Barry Windsor Smith, which is a very sort of unusual thing.
No, right offhand, I'm not seeing that information. If they do,
They did bring in the original creators of Quantum and Woody to do a new
Yeah.
Quantum and Woody series, so that was.
Yeah, I did see that, and I was told that that would be good. So.
If you like silly, funny stories, Quantum and Woody is very silly and very. Well,
And I got the tie-in between Archer Armstrong and Quantum and Woody, The Delinquents.
Was that good?
It's hilarious. They're on like number 3 or 4. They're after the hobo treasure, and they've got these tattooed butt cheeks and that have the map, you know. And it's been fun. It's just been hilarious, and yeah, for that reason, I like it. I got the first issue of the Quantum and Woody series when it was $1, and it was all right, but it didn't make me want to read the series. So.
Right. I might hunt down the trades on both those series, perhaps.
Right. Yeah, and like I said, Archer and Armstrong I've loved, and I would do that. And I keep getting told by people that Quantum and Woody is just as good. You just got to read the series. So.
You might be able to find the original Valiant comics of those in dollar boxes somewhere, or 50 cents.
Yeah. Were they campy and funny, or?
Sorry?
Were they funny, campy, kind of silly, or?
The Archer and Armstrong were very funny. But it would always take you by surprise because it was with this beautiful Barry Windsor Smith art.
Oh.
Okay. So you were thinking it was serious and then realized, wait a minute, this is funny.
All right. I might dig in for that then. All right.
Yeah, if you can find them cheap, I think that would be the old ones would be worth it.
All right.
Jamie, you got any other books?
Well, one other significant indie was Penny Dora and the Wishing Box. I guess Image must have had at least 3 number 1s this week.
Yeah.
And this one, some people were asking me on Twitter, mostly Read 'em Stephen, I guess. I would say this one is definitely a kid's book. One that maybe adults who enjoy reading kids' books will like because it's very high quality. I read it by myself and enjoyed it. I just wanted to make sure it wasn't too scary for my 6-year-old.
Right.
And then I read it with her, and she loved it. It was just like perfectly paced for a kid, and it just sort of sucked her right in. And she was like, "When's the next issue coming out? When's the next issue coming out?"
A month from now.
Yeah, which is like forever.
I'm counting. I know.
And I heard
that's really appealing art and everything.
Gorgeous.
The only flaw for a kid is they keep referring to 10-year-old girls as little girls.
Oh.
And no 6-year-old thinks a 10-year-old girl is a little girl.
No.
Sure, no 10-year-old thinks a 10-year-old.
I don't think 10-year-olds are little girls either, but okay.
And I heard that was based on.
I think it's a great kids book and I've noticed that in the past year there's a lot more good kids comics than there was when I first started looking for them 4 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
I heard that Penny Dora was based off of that writer's daughter's, like a paper she wrote.
Yes, apparently she wrote a half-page story that got published in her newspaper when she was 8.
Yeah.
And then the next year wrote a sequel to it when she was 9, and they're basing the first 2 issues off those 2 half-page stories.
I think that's
But
cool.
they must have added a lot more, because it's a pretty full story.
Well, and you've talked about it. Little Nemo has also been amazing then, too.
Right, and Little Nemo is the king of kids' books for me right now. But
and I have to say, like I told you on Twitter, as an adult even, I mean, Rodriguez's art in it, and it's just a good story. I mean, it's got great flow, and it just has a beautiful tale to tell.
Well, and I think a good kids' book, an adult who is not poo-pooing the idea of kids' books can enjoy a lot. And but the test is reading it to a kid and seeing if they like it. But both Little Nemo and Penny Dora and the current Tiny Titans, which also came out this week, but we haven't read it yet. And another really good one, ironically, is Scooby-Doo Team Up. This month they teamed up with the Flintstones, and next month they're going to team up with the Jetsons. And those have been very good.
Well, the advantage to those team-ups, right, is that they're one-and-done kind of story.
Yeah, they're totally one and done, so we don't
So
have to wait till next month.
you don't have the torture of
Yeah.
waiting 30 days to get the next part of the story.
And Little Nemo is waiting 60 days. So
Yeah.
Right, right. That has to be really tough. I mean,
yeah.
that's long enough to really kind of forget. At least I would think, as a 6-year-old, kind of really forget what the heck was. Didn't
Well,
even
it was so
exist.
good. She remembered it. I mean, it was painful for her to wait that long, but when it came out finally, she remembered it and was really excited.
Yeah.
Cool.
It's definitely worth it for Rodriguez's art. So.
Yeah, let him take his time because he does such a good job.
Mm-hmm.
You have any
And I
more,
re-
either of you?
I realized this is probably actually last week, but Rasputin was a good
All
one.
right.
It's definitely the making of a villain or an anti-hero, however you want to look at it. It starts with him at the dinner party. Everybody's looking to kill him, and then he starts remembering his childhood and abusive father. And it's interesting because the art, I want to say, is like if you told a Marvel artist to try and draw Five Ghosts. It's got a little taste of, and I'll see if I can even do it justice, but I mean, with the way the the artwork is, the lines are nice. There's these, a little bit of how the ghosts are done, but then it does touch on almost a little bit of Animal Man, like when he goes to heal people or animals or creatures. So it's been very interesting. It really feels like the artist has tried to borrow a couple people's styles, and it's Alex Grecian is a writer and Riley Rossimo is the artist. So
He's your Nebraska boy, right? Riley Rossmo? Doesn't he do that Drumheller book?
Yeah.
oh, yeah, actually that makes sense then. That's what. Yeah. All right, it makes more sense now. I wasn't even piecing the two together. It shows you how I don't link things very well.
Yeah, and he did the first arc of Bedlam, and he's done quite a bit of work.
He's a pretty cool artist.
Yeah, I enjoyed that book. I don't know if there was a lot to it, that first issue, but I like Rasputin. Not like it, but I'm interested in the myth that is Rasputin and all that one. I think it was interesting the way this story is being told from him. He's already at the point where they're gonna try and finish him off. They're gonna poison him at least, at the dinner, and he knows it that he's gonna get poisoned. And you get that back history. I love the art that was in it. There's lots of it's just art and not a lot of words through most of the book. I love the fight with the bear. I mean, not that means a whole lot one way or the other than it was just cool to see a guy, going at a bear with an axe was just cool. I don't know, I enjoyed it. So that was a cool look. That was last week, but yeah, it was.
All right, that's what I was thinking when Damien mentioned that there were, how many number ones, and I'm like, I just, I grabbed both of them at the same time. I'm like, that was probably last week.
Yeah. No, that's cool. Still a good book. I read Names. This is issue number 3. I'm liking the book more and more as it goes along. It's now feels like it really has a cohesive plot line as far as what's happening. You've got this secret organization that's been around since at least the 1600s, that's been manipulating the equivalent of the stock market at one point or another. Even before there really was a stock market back in the 1600s, there was a tulip. There's tulips in this cover. There was in Holland. There was a riot and a market collapse around the tulip market. That these people that go by the Names, they're called the Names. This organization manipulated to kind of as an example of how long they've been around manipulating the money markets to their own means and whatnot. And in this issue, we get a little more exposure into yet again this kind of potentially perverse relationship between this woman and her stepson, who's kind of clearly obsessed and sexually interested in her. which leads to some, continues to lead to some interesting and uncomfortable conversations. As she gets deeper into the rabbit hole of these kind of secret organizations that are out there manipulating the stock markets and stuff, and the means that they're going to try and eliminate her and her stepson because they're poking their nose where it doesn't belong, and the guy that's kind of hunting them down is almost a rogue agent. He's kind of, well, he's psycho, and he's psycho to the point to where the people who are trying to use him are worried that he's now out of control. So all kinds of chaos may ensue for everybody because this guy is going to, go to any means necessary to eliminate these targets. And so, but it's been I'm enjoying it. I like the art. I like the style of the art and whatnot. Like I said, it's one of those kind of things that continues to have a definite Vertigo feel to it. The colors that are used, in the book. It feels a lot like the art from, I'm drawing a blank on the artist who did 100 Bullets and Spaceman and stuff like that. It's not that artist, but it's got that kind of a feel to it. But,
Rizzo?
Yes, I think that's what his name is, something like Rizzo, something like that. But this is Fernandez, Leonardo Fernandez. His faces aren't quite as strong, but I still really like it. Like I said, I like the colors. Colors are by Chris Peter, but it's interesting. I'll tell you.
I see that Wonky Ninja has told me to get Terrible Lizard.
Right.
Which I had too many comics this week, and that was an expensive one.
That's another one of those comics that's kind of flirting on the all ages book, right? I mean, because it's basically a little girl and her dinosaur.
Yeah, I don't know. I didn't know enough about it. I think that's another reason why I wasn't.
Cullen Bunn. I know Cullen Bunn's the writer. I don't know who the artist is on it, but I know Cullen Bunn is the one that's writing it. So, yeah.
I guess Wonky Ninja liked it, so.
I got Six Gun. I won't talk a lot about Six Gun. Issue 44 as we're rolling in. Big, huge battle. Most of this book is battle. The one thing I will talk about briefly in it is a lot of it is, four panel pages as the excitement starts to build in it. Then it goes to 8 panel pages. And then to pick the pace up even further after a couple pages of these 8 panel pages, it goes into 12 panel pages. There's about 5 pages of 12 panels of this fight. And, granted, there's not a ton of art in each one of those panels, but there's enough art that it makes everything move really fast because there's this basically strike that's happening, and it's really, really quick. And I'm just impressed that the artist had the stamina to, draw out, 5 or 6 pages of 12 panel, and then after the battle starts to wind down, the panels get bigger and bigger as it winds to a single splash page. The last page of it is a single splash page that kind of drives home basically a no shit moment of disaster for the book. Still really loving Six Gun. Now as we're rolling in, there's only 6 more issues left of the book. It's just at the apex of the roller coaster as everything's just going to come smashing down off the other end of it. And I'm not sure yet that there's actually an end to the roller coaster, or if the rails are just gone and everything's just going to go flying into a disaster. So, and I'm kind of excited by that, the fact that you don't know how it's gonna end out, but it's still really cool. The only other indie book I picked up was Suicide Risk. Me and a couple other people are still reading this book. I'm still really enjoying it. It's nowhere where it was before. I don't want to go into great detail on it. I'm really enjoying it. Our supposed bad guys aren't necessarily bad guys. They're just people who want something a different way than what the other people did. They've basically kind of get their minds back, get to find out who they really are versus what they were, and it ends in a kind of a giant battle starting to happen as there's a scramble as to who's going to win and who to determine who's the who's the good guys and who's the bad guys in here. There's an alien government that's suppressing these people. That's their answer to prison, is to mind wipe them, take their powers away, and plant them on Earth amongst normal people. And they're slowly getting a grasp back as to who they are and getting their powers back, and now trying to decide. Most of them have gotten the option of knowing who they used to be as these powerful people, and also getting to remember who they were while they were on Earth. So they've become a mix of these two individuals, which makes a completely new individual. And now that individual is trying to figure out, now what do I do? How do I live? Because there's this secret government and this other reality that wants to purge us from existence as punishment, kind of thing. So it's interesting. I've been enjoying it.
Seems like that one suffered from a title that doesn't tell you very much.
Well, and the title doesn't tell you very much, and when they first built the book was, what do you do if you're like the only policeman who will stand up to a bunch of supervillains? And what happens when all the superheroes become bad guys? What do you do?
Right.
That is not what this book is. This book is completely something different. I still really like it. It's gotten really interesting. It's going places I would have never imagined it going, but by what this book was built on when it first was introduced, it's not that book. It's not even close to that book. So I don't understand why, like Mike Carey, who's a competent writer, has written lots of great stuff, why he chose to build this book that way. I don't understand. Because nothing about it is suicide risk anymore. There's not, how the book was first built, it made sense. And I don't know if this is originally where he all thought it was going to go, or once he got 4 issues in, he had an epiphany and said, "Oh my God, wouldn't it be cool if he took the story this way?" And so he just went with it, which I'm okay with. But you're right, it doesn't make sense.
Yeah, I keep meaning to get the trades on that, but it doesn't. Other than you talking about it, it doesn't create any buzz or any hook in them to remind you of it.
Right.
But it does sound really good, and I want to get. I bought, I guess, what was it, the first 2 or 3 issues.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And it really changes after that, after those first 2 or 3 issues. I mean, it radically goes, completely different places. That's not anything to do with what that originally was. So, any other indie books we want to talk about? Any indie news we want to talk about?
Yeah, I got a little bit of indie news. I saw that Outcast is the comic book that they're looking at putting it on Cinemax. They've actually even casted Patrick Fugit, who was the young reporter from Almost Famous, or the cop from Gone Girl, depending on what movie you've seen recently. And then they've also cast Philip Blaster, who was the UK actor from Life on Mars. So it sounds like they're actually serious about doing this Outcast thing, which surprised me. I mean, with this few issues is out, that they're pushing it so fast. So.
Well, I think Robert Kirkman might be like gold in Hollywood, right? So if they see another horror book by him, they want to jump on it quickly.
Drake, yeah.
Well, I will say this book has gotten moved along farther than all the other books, because I mean, pretty much anything since The Walking Dead became a TV show, anything new he's put out, somebody somewhere has bought the rights to turn it in, or garnished rights to turn them into TV shows. But this is the only one that they've gone as far as casting and stuff. I mean, because the Thief one, that one was opted to, and they never went anywhere.
Yeah. And that's what you guys were discussing previously. So when I saw this casting, it totally caught me off guard. I didn't think they would do that at this point. Also, I was surprised to see on was it Late Night with Seth Meyers. He's going to have Bendis on soon, Brian Michael Bendis. And so it sounds like he's going to try and do a lot with comics, because I think it was last week he had Joe Hill from Lock and Key on and had discussed with him about that. And they mentioned Lock and Key in his work, but I was also not aware that he was the son of Stephen King.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
So, I could see why they'd have him on for both reasons, but it was just very... being an independent, I thought it was interesting that he was on.
That's cool that they mentioned the comic books and whatnot, because I'm assuming he's on for, he wrote the book. He wrote the book Horns, and aren't they turning that into a movie? I'm assuming that's probably the biggest reason why he was there, because that's coming out soonish, I think.
All right.
So, but that's cool that they mentioned that. Be curious to see why Bendis exactly is on there. Is he on there because of the Powers TV show, or something else? So.
Yeah, and that would be the interesting thing, is to see, especially more independent work and independent comics, if they get on some of these shows, can that generate more buzz?
For the comics, that would be cool. I'd be shocked, but so I think Bendis will spend time talking about comics, so that's at least. But
how popular do we want comics to be? Will they get ruined if they get super popular?
Okay, so here's how I see that. They can get as popular as they want to now, as far as I'm concerned, because some of the comics have already been jacked up because of popularity, right? The ones that have movie tie-ins, those titles
Green Lantern
have really gotten rough, in my opinion, because of that. So I guess there's two sides to that. If there's enough money keeps getting pumped into the market to keep comics, keep the machine running, to help support the little books that are out there, that I enjoy reading, I'm all for it, I guess. Granted, there's also that other side to it. Does it get big, fat, and everybody thinks it's awesome, and it all pop like it did before, and we lose everything? That would be bad. I guess there's two ways. Either I want it to get super lean, so only really, really cool stuff gets published, or get everybody excited about it and get as much money flowing into the machine as we can. That way, there's the ability to maybe get some of this other stuff out there. And if it's people like Joe Hill that show up and are talking about comic books, and that's what gets people excited about comic books, I'm all for it, because he's not pumping out, the next Spider-Man, Superman, Batman, homogenized, mundane, whatever. He's doing interesting things like Lock and Key and stuff like that. So I'm all for it, if that's the case. I don't know.
I walked into my local comic book store on a Saturday last weekend, and it was packed with people, and there have been years where I'd walk in and I'd usually be the only person in there, so I was kind of shocked. And there were a lot of women in there too, which is good, but it's just kind of weird if comics start going much more mainstream for a while. I don't know what effect that will have on it, but I'm a little nervous.
Well,
I like kind of the level it's at now, but because it's been very good for Image comics and stuff, but I'm afraid of it getting too big.
Yeah.
But I don't know what I expect.
Yeah. I like that there's more chances, even for the collector in me, more of the side items, the drinking glasses, the figures, the statues, I like those little things that I can populate my room. When I go to Hobby Lobby, and they're selling 10 to 15 of these metal reprints, of the old comic books.
Oh yeah, the wall plaques.
The X-Men giant size or Spider-Man 122. I think that's great that they're doing things like that.
Hey, Quacky Duck.
We were talking about Penny Dora before. I think I'm gonna go away for about 15 minutes.
Okay.
And help with that time, and I'll be back. So ideally, you guys could talk about Marvel while I'm gone if you've read any. But otherwise, just do whatever you want, and I'll be back when I'm back.
Great.
So I'll talk to you later.
Okay.
Travis, do you have any Marvel?
No, I don't this week.
All right. I'll fanboy it up, and I can take care of this segment while Damien's away.
Oh, there's always plenty to talk about. There's lots to talk about Marvel-wise. So whenever you don't feel like talking books, I can talk otherwise. So.
All right. Book-wise, Thunderbolts. They have final issue. The art felt like a little, Ramos Jr. It wasn't too bad. It was the storyline concluded. It was, I don't know, you could have slapped Avengers on here. It really wasn't that much different than anything else that's being kicked out right now. So I bought it. I liked it. I'll cry now that it's over. Um, I got Elektra also. Let's see if we can fix it. Elektra is now being done by Sanchez instead of Del Mundo, so the art is a little less than what it was before. It's still all right. The storyline continues with assassins trying to kill her. They've been very interesting. They got some B-listers that are attacking her, but the story continues on. I'm happy with Elektra, but I would still say that the first trade is definitely by far the best part of the whole Elektra kickoff. So I picked up the Death of Wolverine, the Logan Legacy. I did not read the Death of Wolverine, but with this one follows Sabretooth, where he's bringing people into like an arena, and then he'll kill them. The interesting part is as you go through, let's see if I could. The colorist, I think, was given the idea like now it's all this yellow, and then they wanted, for the next character, then it's all kind of this red.
Mm-hmm.
And they just keep going through and get past the ads. The colorist kind of just was given one palette for every 3 pages, and it was a little tough to view. It's the coloring was almost a little waterworks or watercolor,
Mm-hmm.
and it made it a little tough sometimes to figure out exactly what was going on the page. I would have liked, I guess, a little bit tighter, because it definitely feels like all the colors are bleeding into each other. And it's just, what does Sabretooth do now that Wolverine is dead? It's the idea, you're the Black Manta theory, your nemesis is dead, what do you do? So he's trying to find his next nemesis, pretty much. The picked up the Death of Wolverine. For somebody who didn't get the Death of Wolverine, I sure got all the other stuff. What do you do now that Wolverine is dead? The Weapon X program. I'm presuming this happens at the end of the Death of Wolverine story. They're in a Weapon X facility, and there's this guy who starts helping all the other Weapon X prisoners. And they're all starting to get back their memories. Some of them remember this or that much, and it's all these varying degrees. They're all trying to figure out each other's powers. And then at the end, they're up on the rooftop, and there's this body encased in metal, or it looks like it's a wax. And I think from someone else's video, I heard that Wolverine, to be killed, was encased in adamantium.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So I presume that's what it is. That's what's making me think this is at the end of it.
Mm-hmm.
But the biggest problem I had with the story, I liked it. I was like, oh, it's a team book. It's all these people that are Weapon X, and they got to get their memory back and figure out what's going on. And at the very end, the guy takes off his mask, and I don't know if you could tell very well, but it's Wolverine. And that, if there's somebody out there who can answer me why, because at the very beginning, you see the guy's face before he puts the mask on, and it's not Wolverine. He doesn't have the lamb chops. He doesn't have the weird spiky hair.
It's not Mystique?
I don't think so. They didn't indicate at all it was. So, it could be somebody whose ability is like that. But it just definitely, I don't know what to think of it. I liked everything up till the last page, and I'm like, no, I didn't read the other Wolverine stuff. I don't want this to be Wolverine. So,
right.
But everything else would make me buy the next one. So
if there's anybody out there watching that wants to comment on is that actually Wolverine at the very end of the Weapon X book, let us know.
Yeah.
So we know what to think of that. Yeah.
And of course, the very last book that I got for the Marvel, because I have to be the Marvel fanboy, I did get the Amazing Spider-Man Multiverse. And
Spider-Verse, not Multiverse, Spider-Verse.
Sorry, yeah, Spider-Verse. Thank you very much, sir. Yeah, all these other verses that are out there. the Spider-Verse. It did good if you hadn't been reading the other stuff. There was a little bit of copy or explanation on what's going on as Peter is finally introduced to all these other spider people that are appearing, and he's starting to figure it out very quickly, which I'm very glad. They could have dragged it out, like, I'm not going to trust you. And even with that, they're like, people will pull off their mask, and they're like, no, this is who I am. It's not Mysterio. It's not this. And then there's a sub-story in the back about the family that's killing off the spiders. So, and then that's good too. They've been doing that in the Superior Spider-Mans and some of the other books that are tying into it. And I just wonder that for the Spider fan who's out there also, do you feel that you're getting all the repetitive information? If you've collected every comic to this point, how much of it is repeated to keep everybody informed?
Well, it shouldn't happen that way because Marvel dedicates a page, right, the front of every book to tell you what's going on before you start reading it, right?
No, it starts page 1 right into the story where Spider-Man goes out and gets killed instantly. But of course that was Spider Moon Man of Earth 449.
Oh.
But yeah, yep, you're right, Travis. A couple pages in, they have the Spider-Verse explanation.
Okay, because I say most of them. Yeah, isn't that a great splash page? Boy, you got your art on that 2-page spread, didn't you?
Yeah. So
Woo.
Olivia Coipel did a good job. Dan Slott told a decent story. I like some of the characters, and then I did not read about Vale, and she was she's in here, and evidently when her and Peter get together, they start pheromoning each other and want to have babies. So, so he's like instantly, all right, we got to get out of the apartment. I can't do this, and so then they're out in the air where they can't quite smell each other, but. Yeah, for somebody who's not following it, there is a lot of stuff thrown at you. So, but I like the story.
That is an interesting question, though. Are you just, if you're getting most of the Spider-Verse, how much of it is just you getting the same thing regurgitated to you over and over again, which would be unfortunate because, like I said, Marvel dedicates a page to generally most of those books. Well, in that case, 2-page thread, but most of the time that first page. Maybe because that's issue 1, they didn't do it on the first page. But normally, most Marvel books, that first page, they give you this is what's happened so far. Yeah. So just supposedly, so you can get on the book wherever and not be totally lost as to what's going on. So that would be unfortunate.
I'm sure they did it because they wanted you to read the first couple pages and see Spider-Man die and then explain it.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Sure.
Yeah, that's it. So it's a lot of Marvel superhero comic book stuff, just what you think. It's what's out there.
Yeah. Yeah, this is my week. I don't get any Marvel books. Just about now, just about every week I at least get one, but this week lined up for me not to have any. Of course, lots of interesting Marvel news. I guess maybe not lots, but this last week the ad went out for the Everything Ends in the spring of 2015. So, and it's got this kind of title, says everything ends and it fades out as it goes away, leaving us all to speculate whatever we want to as to what does that really mean. Did you actually see the ad?
Yes. Yeah.
So what do you think that means? What's your speculation?
I thought somebody else had mentioned it, that it ties into the Ultimate Universe and that it's the end of the Ultimates.
So you just think simply that's what they're doing? They're just going to clean house on that, and that's.
Yeah, because they're going to be they're pulling Miles out, so that's the biggest piece. Mm-hmm. And I think everything else, anything they can farm out of it, they will. But I think it's done.
Because I believe that this lands after all this other Secret Wars. Civil War, all that stuff that they've teased, kind of all. This lands after that, right?
Yeah.
Because there's also the suspicion: is this their way of they're gonna have this big kind of multiverse, not to use DC's word, kind of an event, kind of a thing, and then slam the door on everything and and restart everything after it's all over with. But you're thinking it's just the Ultimates, just get rid of just the Ultimates?
Yeah, and I would have to read back through on. I don't remember if it was something else in the comics I saw or web pages, but somewhere I was almost sure that it just is the Ultimate Universe.
Huh. Seems like a big ad for just the Ultimate Universe, because the Ultimate Universe seems very small to me to be spending a lot of energy making it a big deal. Of course, by just putting that out there, that then makes some of us speculate, is it going to be a soft reboot or a hard reboot of the entire Marvel Universe? And if that's, what's going to happen, that gets us all talking and being all frothy mouthed and excited over something that's really not, but keeps the name on everybody's lips as opposed to their competitors. So I guess that's...
Because, I'm sure there's a lot of people now that just don't understand there's still that Ultimate Universe out there. It's just... I mean, they gutted it for what they wanted, and now it's done. So.
Yeah. Or is that tie-in right about movie time? That's
Very
right before.
possible.
That's right before they start releasing all the big summer blockbusters, right?
Yeah.
For 2015, I don't know.
But I know when they were talking about female Thor, they said that she's going to be there for quite a while. It's not. When the Avengers movie comes out, it's not going to change. She's going to be there. They have long-term plans.
What's long-term?
Yeah, 3 years. 3 years.
Really? You think you make it 3 years? I don't even think that.
Well, yeah. I mean, they cut Thor's arm off. So.
I think if you go, 12 issues, that's a pretty long run for a Marvel book. It seems like these days before they restart it for some reason. So. Oh.
I'm surprised they're making the Thor 3 Ragnarok movie. He seemed like the less, people just were not as excited about those movies as all the rest.
But they're excited as all heck about Loki. So you gotta figure out a way to get Loki into a movie, get Tom, Hiddleston into a movie, so they don't, Thor's just there so they can put Loki in, right?
Yeah. Yeah. That'll be it. He'll be carrying the hammer in the comic book in 2 years.
That'll be awesome. I'll read that. I like Loki. I like the Loki character.
Him and all the Young Avengers. So.
That'd be even better yet. They should just make a Young Avenger movie too. I'd be all covered for that.
What if they start doing Tom Hiddleston comic book of Loki instead of what they've been doing?
I'd be upset. I actually like the storyline that's going on with Loki now. But granted, from a business standpoint, that would be very smart of them to pay ultimate fan service and make Loki be that version. Draw him so he looks just like Tom Hiddleston. That would be, to me, from a business standpoint, that makes a lot of sense.
It's amazing they haven't done it, really.
Well, yeah. It is kind of surprising, isn't it? I know some people thought that's what was going to happen when this new Loki Agent of Asgard book came out. That there are people who really were like, oh yeah, this is just going to be fan service. This is just basically, going to be a bunch of fan fiction to appease those fans, to make those fans happy or whatever. And maybe it is, but.
It seems like must be a group of editors at Marvel who are good at sneaking in really cool books in the mix of all this commercial stuff. So things like Loki, they really let be something different, even though it probably exists because of the popularity of that.
Sure. Yeah. That could
Just
be
like
definitely.
they once did with Hawkeye.
Yeah, that'll be interesting when that starts back up again. Any other thing we want to talk about with Marvel before we move on?
No.
Okay, let's move on to DC. What do we want to talk about for DC?
Well, I only got 9 DC books this month.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. You beat me by 1.
All right.
Well, that's because I got Scooby-Doo.
That must be the Scooby-Doo one. Okay, let's talk Gotham Academy. We all got that, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
So where are we at with Gotham Academy? Same as place we were last month?
Well, I was not going to get Gotham Academy, and I was predicting it was going to be a huge flop. And then I read it to my daughter, and she loved it, issue 1. So I felt, when she loves a comic book, I get excited. So
Right.
I
Yeah.
thought I'd get the next issue. And I haven't read it with her yet because we got too many kids' comics this week. I liked it a bit better than the first issue, but I still felt frustrated with it. How about you?
Yeah, I'm not frustrated with it, but it hit a lot harder on the whole Harry Potter-esque-ness of it in this issue. It really, whereas last issue I kind of looked at it and went, well, it could have those kind of elements. This issue really had those elements. Clearly she's an outcast for, because she has a scar on her face where somebody tried. No, I mean, because something happened last summer. She doesn't play well with others, kind of a thing in it. You've got these kind of weird classes. The chemistry class or whatever class that was just a little bit on the odd side. So there's all those kind of elements that really make it feel Harry Potter-esque in the sense.
Did you feel that the librarian was supposed to be very Riddler-ish?
Yeah, I wondered if he was a minor riddle-based character or something.
Yeah, he did have that feel, didn't he? Between the bow tie and the hat, it really gave him that kind of a...
I wonder if some of the characters in here are supposed to become future villains in the Batverse, in the Gothamverse. Future heroes and villains, I suppose.
As Travis was saying, the Professor Snape teacher who's talking about the brimstone.
Right.
Yeah. And the dog, I wonder if they're going to go back to it, that it found like this femur bone.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wonder about
They're just going to let that slide, or what's going to go on with that?
Yeah, down by that tree. Yeah. So, what draws me most to the book is the whole Cobblepot stuff, because that's history of Gotham, and I'm a sucker for the history of Gotham part. So that whole part of it makes me go, ooh, I want to know that. I want to know that story. I want to know about this one Cobblepot that's obviously being forced to do something. Back in the, what was it, the 1800s or 1700s, whatever it was that they're talking about it. I'm just kind of, I'm curious about that part. I do like the main character. I mean, I think she's interesting. I do kind of want to know what happened in the summer. How long did they get dragged that out as far as being a summer? I mean, they're kind of giving us a little more information. Some implication that mom was crazy, so maybe she's crazy too. We kind of get the feeling maybe she doesn't remember what happened to her over the summer. So I'm kind of interested in that, but I understand the frustration around it too. It's kind of like you're teasing in kind of a way that's annoying.
Well, and we've talked about it on how much needs to be answered every time. I mean, they do keep dropping little hints at different things, and I guess we're just hoping that it's going to tie in.
Well, and it seems like potentially what they're hiding from us could be the thing that makes us care about Olive a lot more.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not sure I care about her so much because I don't know what she's so upset or unhappy about.
Right.
I just know she's upset.
They do need to give us something, because clearly she's upset by bats. Clearly she's upset by Batman. Clearly something happened over the summer. But you're right. I mean, what's the investment? Why should we be invested in her other than you like the ideal of a Gotham Academy and a outcast girl in it? I mean, if that's what it takes to be invested, and there are people that they're going to be invested because of that, and that's cool. But that's not for all of us, I guess. But you're right. I mean, what else about it are we supposed to be? For me, the investment in the book right now is the Gotham part of it, the lore that's being teased. That's the part that interests me. I am curious about those other things about her, but I'm not invested in her. I think Maps is a funner character than all of this. Even though Maps is kind of one note, she's kind of a funny one note, and I enjoy her.
Well, in videos for the first issue, I've heard people talk about it. They were kind of hoping that Gotham Academy would be an ensemble story about a bunch of students at Gotham Academy, and I think that's a good idea. I think if we just only focus on Olive Silverlock, we need her story to be done really well to keep caring about it. But if we had more about Maps and more about some of these other characters, I think it could be a stronger book for me.
Yeah, there's some interviews out there with both Becky Cloonan and can't remember Fletcher's first name. The two writers, Brendan Fletcher. The two writers. There are interviews out there with them that I need to go back and listen to. I didn't really get around to listening to them. One of the ones on top of my head is the Commodosities Mom Reads Comics channel. She does a YouTube channel every Monday, and she's interviewed the ladies on that show. Have interviewed both creators, and they talk extensively about this on those shows. And so I need to go back and watch those shows, and that might fill in some of that as to what they think their plan is going to be. But I shouldn't have to rely on what the future plan of the book is going to be to keep me excited in actually reading the book, right?
True.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's kind of where I am. I'm not hating the book. I think there's, I'm not impatient to know these mysteries. It's not a matter of I want to know everything right now. But I think it's a fair criticism to say, why should we care about Olive, and have we been given enough to care about her? And I don't know that I have. I mean, I think that's a fair question. Like I said, for me, the appeal of the book is the Gotham lore part of it right now. So.
Well, and even my question is, what are we supposed to care about too? I mean, like, they show us certain things. Is this supposed to be important or not? And I wonder, because, like, what color is Olive's eyes? They're almost,
yeah.
like, they're almost red? Or is it supposed to be like
Yeah, her eyes get colored. Her eyes get colored that kind of brownish red a lot, don't they?
Yeah. And then when she's in the library and there's that other boy she sees,
her eyes are really lit up.
Yeah, well, that, and then even his. I mean, I don't know if that's supposed to mean something. Like, he's almost vampirish with his red eyes, and I'm having trouble with that also.
His eyes are clearly, here it is, his eyes are clearly red. Hers are kind of an orange-brown, and I don't know if she just has brownish eyes or what. Yeah. I mean, her hair is clearly stock white. I mean, I don't know how many people actually have white hair.
Yeah. Especially 14-year-olds, unless she dyes it or something.
Right. So you're right. I mean, that does make you kind of wonder, because at certain points her eyes are really red, and is that? I mean, that final page, not that it spoils anything, but the smoke and fire rolling around her and the kind of panic look on everybody's face. Does this imply that she's in control of something here, or about to lose control? I mean, is she a fire starter? I mean, that does make you wonder about the next issue, right?
Yes.
It's weird to wait 3 issues if they're going to reveal that she has a superpower.
But I think part of how we're supposed to relate to Olive is she's an outsider. She clearly is, not one of the A game. She gets kind of picked on to some degree, and I think we're supposed to relate with that in a sense also.
But she has what looks to me like a really popular boyfriend who she's rejecting. She doesn't feel that much of an outsider to me, from my memory of high school.
Right.
Well, that definitely, I really don't care about the love life storyline, or the why can't she be with him, or what's not being told between them. That if that's what I'm supposed to care about, I definitely don't care about that.
And he has no distinguishable personality yet. Just pictures of him where he's obviously supposed to be like the anime cute guy.
Right. Well, and something has between them besides just the summer they were out of contact, because he seems weird also as far as their relationship goes. Yeah. I don't know.
I mean, how much are we, a bunch of middle-aged men, analyzing a story that's not written for us? I don't know. If my daughter continues to like it, I kind of think I'll enjoy it, and if she's not liking it, which it may get too teenagery for her, then I think my interest will go away. Does Chloe Oddfellow have any interest in it?
She hasn't read them yet. She goes, oh yeah, I kind of like to read those, but she's discovered that she doesn't like reading monthly comics.
Okay.
She wants a bulk of comics, so it's kind of like when I get 3 or 4 of them, she'll probably sit down and read them, and I'll know about it. You know, she's just now getting ready to sit down and read all of the Ms. Marvels that I have,
Right.
which I think she will like also. But the way she
It's kind
reads,
of a rarefied thing to be willing to wait a month between chapters of a story. Most people wouldn't do that.
yeah. It's,
Well, so then that goes back to Damien's question. Then if that age group has that trouble, should it maybe be more of a weekly for them? Is that maybe where they missed a piece of targeting?
Or will they market the trade really well, and will they wait long enough to see if the trades succeed before canceling this?
and who knows, with the way DC puts out trades, they're not very consistent on how DC does that. So that's not a
Because this might be like a killer trade at at the high school book or the junior high school book fairs probably. Mm-hmm. One thing that, I mean, you have more experience with this than me, Travis, but I think kids usually like to read a few grades above themselves.
Or attempt to, for sure. Mm-hmm.
My daughter wants to read about middle schoolers right now.
Right, what the big kids are doing, that's what's cool.
And I imagine when you're in high school, you want to read about what the college kids are doing or something like that.
Yep.
But I heard that, or I read somewhere that that Plants vs. Zombie comic book is in trade is rumored to have sold 500,000 copies because it's selling at book fairs at schools.
Mm-hmm. The Scholastic and stuff, right?
Right. So if you are doing something that's really aimed at a sort of a middle school age bracket, you need to find a way to get it into their view, and you probably need that in trades. Anyway, so it'd be interesting to see if DC can find a way to market something like this.
Yeah. I don't see it happening, but I don't have faith in that part of the marketing, their part of their marketing stuff, but we'll see. I'm going to hang around for a while longer. It doesn't feel to me like a turkey. It's a $2.99 book.
Yeah.
I'm curious about the there's nothing about it I hate. Nothing about it's a turnoff. So I'll probably stick around with it for a while.
Yeah, I like the spirit of it a lot more than, say, the spirit of the new Batgirl.
For sure.
It just feels fairly positive about its characters and everything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And the art's grown on me a bit.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. What else do you want to talk about?
Did anybody get chocolate in their peanut butter and peanut butter in their chocolate?
Oh no. That's not even a good comparison.
The Green Arrow 36.
Arrow,
yes, Arrow. I have to say I did not hate it as much as I did the last one. I think I really ripped the last one pretty good. It did have a bit of Felicity Smoke. It does have that Green Arrow has green goggles. I'm not entirely sure why he has goggles.
He actually had the new uniform when it first came out for the New 52. He actually had goggles. His mask actually had lenses.
All right, that's what it is. Okay. But I mean, it's him fighting thugs, shooting arrows, and I thought that was all done very well. A lot of trick arrow shots, grappling arrow. It started to feel good about that. It was, when he's talking with Felicity, she talks in her Felicity TV voice. I said this, and I didn't mean it to sound like this, but then I wanted to do this, but
But didn't the last issue end with her saying, "I'm here to kill you"?
Yeah. She was hired, and then she realized once she realized it was Green Arrow, she sent them to the killers to the wrong location, because she's like, well, I'm not supposed to kill you. Well, I was supposed to get somebody to kill you, but I didn't. I sent them to a warehouse, not this warehouse, but a different warehouse. I'm like, that is how she talks in the show.
Yeah.
but I don't want it in my comic. I don't need that much word bubble. They did touch back on these were all your old friends and characters that were in the Lemire run, and then that's probably the last we'll ever hear of them. You know, because she just established that she knows who he is and what he's done. But at the end, they bring in Merlin, not the TV show Merlin. This guy's all burnt up on one side of his face. So
that Merlin was introduced. Tommy Merlin was introduced in I think the first Green Arrow annual of the New 52. They were having a party on an oil rig, and some terrorists took over the oil rig, and the oil rig ended up exploding and lighting on fire, and Tommy got burnt up.
All right.
Supposedly dead, burnt up dead. Supposedly.
Okay. So there we go. They just took out. They're slowly cutting out the Lemire run and then just continuing it along. And I'm sure these writers will play ball and put him in every arc that involves all the other stories. So next time they have some big crisis, he'll be involved in it. Because she's like, "Oh, you're on the Justice League." He goes, "Well, actually, I'm on the Justice League of America." And she goes, "Well, one way or another." So evidently, they're just going to start incorporating it into what's ever in the other big books and what he's doing. So it's too bad. I mean, I keep wanting to give it a little more leeway. Like each day, I'm a little less mad with it, but I think I'll pick up the next issue and be pissed off all over again. So it's probably the end.
I just continue to question, why do they have an Arrow comic if they're going to put this much of what's happening in the Arrow TV show into the Green Arrow comic? Is just
from what I found out, the Arrow comic covers what happens in between seasons.
Oh.
That's what they're doing with the Arrow comic, and which makes it even, I guess, more worthless. But
well, that makes sense from a marketing standpoint. If you're selling it to people who watch the show digitally, can go on and read it digitally. If you need that extra Arrow fix and you want to know the inside story of the other stuff, that makes perfect sense. That markets well along with the TV show. Yeah. But I still don't understand the concept of, I need to have what's in the TV show in my comic.
Yeah.
So.
Well, in Future's End, you get a bearded, ponytailed Green Arrow.
Yeah.
Right on.
That was still Lemire. I like that. It was where we'd like to go, but I don't know it's going to make it there.
Yeah, I assume Lemire is writing the Green Arrow parts in this series since he is working on it. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. I assumed you were pretty much done with Green Arrow, but if you have more to say about him.
No, I'm just going to start punching it and tearing it.
But... Okay, start talking, Damien.
So another issue. I always enjoy Future's End. There was only one issue in the whole run so far that I didn't. This one just has a little bit of Green Arrow, but Green Arrow and Lois Lane and some other characters are all going to be coming together again. It has some really good Lois Lane stuff, and this is Lois Lane on the cover.
Right.
Parachuting down to an invisible island that she can't see. The other highlight for this issue, I thought, was the meeting of their 5 years in the future Batman with Batman Beyond, Terry McGinnis. And that hopefully will be continued in next issue, because in typical kind of Batman style, the apartment they were in just blew up before the issue ends, which seemed to happen a couple of times in Batman Eternal already.
Nice.
But yeah, so this is kind of like the comic that has all the heroes you really want, like Green Arrow with a beard, and as the avenging liberal.
Right on. The real Green Arrow.
Right.
Yes.
No Frankenstein this issue, but I assume he'll show up soon again.
Probably can't be in every issue, huh?
Yeah. They've got a lot of plot threads going, so so I'm still thinking this will be great for everybody in trade who didn't read it.
I'm planning on getting it. I regret not picking it up weekly.
You just can't get everything, Travis. Even you.
I know, can't. Or I could, but the consequences would be pretty dire. So, oh, how about let's talk the other weekly book, Eternal. I haven't watched anybody's video on this yet, so I know you've talked about it, and
Yeah.
I gotta get on Joshua Hayes' his talking about it, but I hadn't gotten around to watching all of them yet because I just finished reading these today, so I haven't watched anybody else's video on it.
So, how did you respond to this issue?
I enjoyed this issue a lot more than the last issue. It felt like some stuff actually gets accomplished here, or things kind of move places and whatnot. I liked the Bane Alfred, interaction. I actually kind of enjoyed that. Bane recognizing, being the strategic guy that he is, recognizing right away that the way Alfred carries himself, that he's somehow military. I enjoyed that little bit there. Just the mere idea of, even though they were really working together, what they kind of were, just the briefly Bane Alfred team up is something I would never occur to me that I'd ever be saying that. So that was fun. I liked that part of it. I did enjoy the fact that there was, there's some consequences to Arkham falling under. There were some bad guys pouring out for a little bit there. The art to me felt inconsistent. Did it feel inconsistent to you? Some panels I thought looked really cool. And I got this where Batman's using his thermal gloves. He's getting ready to pound on the streets. That was a cool page. That page looked cool. I thought the art was fine. And then there were other pages that I'm like, ooh, the proportions and faces and stuff just kind of looked, I don't know, rushed or something.
A little bit of that, but for most part, I really enjoyed this art, and I thought the colors were really stand out, and it. So Batman Eternal, I now judge internally with other Batman Eternals, and as Batman Eternal artists go, this one does a very good job overall, tells the story well, and I don't know. It works for me.
Okay.
I think I was won over. I think what made me enjoy the whole issue was because I really liked the Bane Alfred team up. That was pretty original and pretty fun. And
I continue to like the Penny 2.
I like the Penny 2 parts.
Interactions also. I mean, I'm liking that character. And to start out, when that character was first introduced, when she was just Alfred's daughter, I was really kind of the whole idea of that, but I like the role that she's kind of taken on. I don't want her to be permanently doing it. I like Alfred best, but I do. I like her. So. And
I don't like it when they use Alfred as a victim. So I really like seeing Alfred as a strong character.
Right. Definitely.
He did. You can get really picky with this issue, which Joshua Hayes did do. Alfred just magically has recovered with no sign of the fear toxin anymore after that first page, and
right.
And Batman has technology that is so amazing. It's like, how does anyone ever face down Batman? That Batman can recognize bodies all around Gotham, right, with a satellite computer.
Satellite and thermal and facial recognition.
Right.
The second.
I thought that was really cool, but then Joshua Hayes pointed out that if Batman has that, he could find anyone in Gotham at any time. So why hasn't he found all the people he needs to find already? Especially Hush, because now he's found Hush right when it's convenient for the plot.
Sure.
But that's sort of par for the course with Batman Eternal.
But that's always kind of been Batman in some sense, either, right? Either he has the gadget he needs. I mean, that's always a running either a joke or cool, depending on how you want to look at it. Batman can always pull something out of his belt that gets him what he needs and whatever, whether it's thermal underwear or it's the shark repellent or it's whatever. He has that stuff around. He conveniently has these things that he can put on his fist to fight an ice person. How do you know he was going to have to do that? I mean, to some degree, that's always been Batman. Either you like that about Batman or you hate Batman because he's always got some freaking gadget to save his ass. I mean, granted, the recognition thing is way over the top, but to me, that seems to some degree normal for the course of being what Batman is. So.
Well, as I say, it didn't jump out at me until he talked about it. but there is a kind of a question of like, how far do you want to go with Batman? Do you want to limit how far his magic technology can work?
It's just like right. It's just like every time they put Batman in a robotic suit, makes me angrier than angry because that takes away what Batman is. You know, Batman's a guy. You put him in a super suit. Why the hell doesn't he wear the super suit all the time? It's dumb for him not to wear the super suit all the time, in my opinion. You know, because then you're always prepared for. You're never going to have to worry about Clayface, you know, smacking you upside the head because you're inside of a super suit that can be punched by Superman. You know, why aren't you wearing that all the time? So that's
isn't it Lucius Fox? He's the one that decides what he gets to use and not use.
Lucius Fox isn't even part of the equation anymore.
All right.
Yeah, they don't seem to bring Lucius Fox up ever.
Yeah.
Well, I just remember in the movies, you know, that's what stops the Bat.
Yeah, he used to be, but not anymore. But so yeah,
if
so
Batman
I mean,
just has whatever gadget he needs. But yeah, because the flip side of what make people like about Batman is that he's a little more like us, and he has to struggle a bit.
Right. Well, those are some of the better stories, quite frankly, the ones where he's, you know, having to use his wits and desperation to get him through whatever. But
his greatest weapon is his brain and his determination.
Right. I get that criticism, but I also feel like that's par for the course. It's Batman. That's part of what Batman is. I mean, there's two different types of Batman stories. There's the detective. He's one of us because he's a guy without superpowers. And then there's the guy that can deal with all the superpowered people because he's smart enough to pull out the gadget he needs to deal with whatever he needs to deal with. Yeah.
Anyway, I keep being... So this was one of the up issues for me. There's been some down issues lately.
I liked it. I thought it was fun. That was a fun issue. Still want to know what's going on, like with Joker's daughter and whatnot. He obviously KOs her. He breaks the explosive in half, and he says plastique. I mean, so is that supposed to be some clue to us, the reader?
Yeah. Can't plastique be ignited? I mean, why didn't her plastique blow up for her?
No, plastique takes a specific type of charge to actually make it go boom. That's why it's a safe explosive. It doesn't just go boom. You can't drop it and it go boom. You can't shoot it and it go boom. It takes a specific thing to make it go boom. Electric charge or something. Why her switch didn't work, I don't know. Other than, I mean, are we supposed to think that she was set up by Hush? And I know Hush is good, but how can he be doing all of this stuff?
I know. And the whole Joker's daughter, she's been all over the place, and we've never learned what's going on with her.
But clearly, I was suspicious that maybe the guy that was in the garage talking to the Clue Master maybe wasn't Hush. But clearly that was Hush, because in this issue he's basically going, I gotta do this myself, as he's ready to take out spoiler. So
the only possible twist is that someone else dressed up as Hush.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's a twist that they're going to go with, but I consider that.
That would be a weird twist because nobody knows who. I mean, I don't know. Hush isn't really us long-term readers is a character, but short-term readers isn't really much of a character to be. I don't know, playing double agent with or whatever. I don't know. What other books do you want to talk about?
Well, while we're talking Batman, did you have a reaction to Detective Comics 35, the End Terminal?
It was a great book. I like the first half, and I like the second half too. I love the art. I love how it simply, it ends. 2-issue story. It's done. It's Batman kind of being detective-ish in it. It also has a groin punch in this that's really disturbing to me. Disturbing enough that I took a picture of it and posted it on Twitter because the sound effect that goes along with it is alarming. But
well, to make you happier when they're electrocuting a guy with cables from a car battery, I assume they were applying those to his crotch also.
Oh, I didn't even look at that part.
I think that's standard fare when you're torturing someone.
Oh, is it? Okay. So yeah, there's the squelch as Dick Grayson nails this guy who's the guard to a club door. But like I said, the art was lovely. I even liked the interaction of Grayson and this weird lady in this club, in Club Hell. I even like that. I would like to see maybe not more of that situation, but more of this Dick Grayson. And I mean, this Dick Grayson was much more hard-boiled super spy than the flashier one I'm sure we'll talk about in a little bit. So what little bit of seedy grittiness was there, I thought was really interesting. That makes him seem what he's doing, his occupation in this book seems much more kind of seedy, hardcore, and grim, like I said, in comparison to the Grayson one, which just seems kind of cute, polished, and flashy.
You're comfortable with him becoming a torturer?
Not necessarily, but I would like to read that story of how does he justify that? How does he justify, because Dick Grayson's a nice guy. How does Dick Grayson, who to me seems like the kind of guy that would, if somebody tripped and fell, would go out of his way to help pick him up off the ground. How does he fake being this other, badassery kind of person that he is? How does he do that? To me, that would be interesting to see. But
in this issue, he's gotten over the moral struggle. He seems very comfortable with torturing people.
Because that's not part of the story.
He also is very, very conveniently located. The person he happens to be torturing has some information that's useful to Batman's case.
Worked for me.
Bothered me. The Dick Grayson part of the story bothered me.
I thought it was fine. I like the disease that makes them old. So you get this picture of Batman he has his cowl back, and he's already got gray sideburns because he's slowly getting old and deteriorating. Well, not slowly, quickly getting old and deteriorating. I don't know. I liked it because it was 2 short stories, and it was done. It seemed like a Batman story to me. The art of it gave it just pure Batman atmosphere. I even liked the humored kind of ending of it. Let's go relax someplace, and Alfred saying basically that's not you. Kind of. I don't know. I like the entire tone of the book. To me, I'm missing this Batman book. The Batman book itself seems very high-end 4-color superhero book, not the grim, gritty detective. I don't think I understand what Detective Comics is right now outside of these 2 issues, the creators that are normally on the book. I don't understand their Batman yet. Of course, Batman Eternal is a zoo of stuff, so doesn't really have a tone. But I miss this tone of a Batman book, so I enjoyed it because it gave me that tone. What do you think?
Well, I think I've already covered it. I liked it, except for the
Dick Grayson.
It was instead of detective work, it was Dick Grayson as torturer finding out information. I guess I did like the bar scene, but I wasn't comfortable with it, and I also felt it was all too convenient. So I liked the first issue a lot better, I guess. But I did, in general, agree with you. I would like more of this tone in Batman, particularly in Detective Comics, where obviously he's being a detective. Should be being.
I would have been okay if this would have been more issues long. If instead of having this be the quick resolve that was here, because that's basically what they did. They used Dick Grayson conveniently being in the right place, the right person, to give them the answer to get to the end of the issue in this issue.
Right.
I think they could have made more detective work out of it and more of all of that and made it longer. And I would have been okay with that.
You could think of a way where maybe Dick Grayson got Batman a clue that allowed him to then do more detective work in the airport, where he on his own figures out the rest, rather than Dick Grayson just hand him the entire answer.
Right.
But yeah, I think it should have been a 3-issue story maybe, and so you got to admire them for what they managed to do in 2 issues. They probably were said, we need a 2-issue fill-in. What can you do? And so I'd love to see more of John Paul Leon and maybe this writer or some other writer working with him in a moody detective mode.
For sure. It was a pleasant. I really wasn't paying attention. I just added it's on my poll. I wasn't paying attention to what it was, so I really wasn't watching the solicitations for it that closely. So it was a really nice surprise to get it and get what we got. Like I said, I really enjoyed it.
I'm really on the fence about whether to continue to get detective in single issues or not.
I'm going to get this next arc. Well, I'm going to keep getting it unless it gets really bad. Detective Comics is one of those books I'll admit to. I just buy because it's Detective Comics and I always buy it.
And you're more of a single issue person. Waiting for a trade isn't what you usually think about.
Yeah, I don't really, care to do that with most of these kind of books. So I'm curious to see what the next arc, the next Francis Manapul and Buchalel arc is going to be. I'm hoping to get a better sense of what they're wanting to what kind of a tale are they wanting to tell. I don't feel like the first one they gave us was much of anything. So I'm curious to see what the next one is like, and then I guess I'll decide whether or not how excited I'm or not excited I'm going to be by Detective Comics for a while.
I don't think they're great plotters. I think they're okay writing. You know, if you read an individual issue, it seems okay, but when you look at the overall plot, I don't think they really know what they're doing. I don't think.
And I didn't read. You did the Flash, yeah, because I didn't read the Flash, so I don't.
I did read the Flash, and I would be liking it issue by issue, but then when I would try to track the whole plot over the longer thread, it just didn't really.
It just looks good.
Yeah.
That's what they're relying on. Is it looking good, right?
They should bring in another writer to either, or a strong editor or something. In my opinion.
Yeah. Did you get any other DC books? Yeah.
Mike?
Oh no. I just had the 2, so and now I'm just enjoying you guys.
Okay. So let's move on to Grayson.
Okay. I think we're going to disagree on this.
Okay. Go
Because
ahead.
I like this issue a lot. And I like this gentler Dick Grayson. Even though he is being an undercover spy and everything. I feel that there's a sense of emotions that he has that he can't show to anyone. But because the woman he was sleeping with in the last issue is dead, and he can't deal with it directly. But I feel like they do a good job of showing that he's indirectly trying to deal with it, although maybe he will soon be sleeping with another woman. But
I actually enjoyed this issue. I did not like the last issue. I didn't like the whole that agent being killed, and that to me that I did not care for that story. I didn't think it didn't feel Dick Grayson to me. It didn't whatever. I actually enjoyed this for what it was. And then when I made the comparison between the two, I'm not saying that I don't like this. I just think it would be interesting if because this to me is a much more lighter affair. That woman was killed. There doesn't seem to be really any consequences other than, oh yeah, by the way, you can go and talk to our local shrink. Just try to forget the fact that she ate a person, and you can go talk to her and work out your issues. To me,
this is a little closer to Jim Steranko's Shield than to real life as a double agent.
Right. And so when I was referring to the other thing, I just think that would be an interesting story to hear also, that kind of grittier end of it, and how does he justify his existence. Whereas here, he gets to stay cute and pretty, and if you like looking at a lot of Dick Grayson, shirtless and shoeless, this is an awesome issue because there's plenty of eye candy as far as that goes. So I liked it. I thought it was fun. It's very Dick Grayson. To me, it felt very Dick Grayson. Him kind of playing with the college girls that have got a thing for her, for him, and are chasing him around. To me, that strikes me as being kind of a youthful Dick Grayson kind of thing to do. He's just gonna have a good time with the girls by leading them on as far as he can, kind of a thing. And so I appreciate all that. I like Hella Bertinelli. She's probably, and I like this artist, and the way this artist draws her, she's probably one of the hottest women in comics right now. But
yeah, this artist is just
Janet.
It's always a very good artist, but the last few issues have been incredible.
Yeah, but there's parts about this whole spiral thing. I like the fact they wouldn't mess with Checkmate, even though we don't get to see all of that, because Checkmate used to be the kind of spy group of the DC universe, used to be Checkmate, and these people are messing with Checkmate at one point in it, briefly. But I don't know, the whole spiral, I still don't understand what he's really supposed to be doing there. I don't get it. And I'm still confused by the fact that they know he's Dick Grayson, they know he was Nightwing, because I could have sworn when this comic first started out that all was kind of a secret, wasn't it?
Yeah. It doesn't make any sense for it not to be a secret and they clearly know that he was Nightwing and that he is Dick Grayson.
Right. These people the people that are on the inside of this secret network, which they're hiding inside of a school for debutante assassins.
Right. And their big goal is to uncover the secret identities of every superhero. And if they know that they have Dick Grayson, and that they should be able to follow the
Right.
the trail of crumbs and figure out the link to Batman and.
Well, wouldn't they be torturing him if he was a superhero? Wouldn't they have him under a bunch of chemicals and brainwash him to where they got that information out of him? I don't. Yeah. So.
Right. Yeah. Why they let him be kind of a free agent in their agency?
Yeah.
That's the big flaw with this. Mm-hmm. You have to just let go of that, I guess, and enjoy the ride. If it was a realistic spy story and everything, they couldn't make an ongoing series out of it, because he would either find out the information he needs to know, or they would find out who he is and torture him and kill him. But
I guess.
So they're kind of walking a line where they're making it a little more like James Bond and Nick Fury, Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. in the 60s.
Or the Avengers, the 60s Avenger TV show.
The 60s Avengers, that whole vibe.
Yeah.
And they're doing that very well, I think.
Yeah.
So
and Dick Grayson
one of my favorite DC books.
Yeah. And Dick Grayson is a perfect person to put in that role too. I mean, because he is kind of a handsome man, kind of flashy in his own way. He always has been. He's the acrobat. He's all that. So I mean, he works well within those.
Right. And I assume if I swung that way, that these would be very nice drawings of Dick Grayson for me.
And of course, at the end of it, they because he's exposed himself to these. Not that kind of exposure, but as exposed himself to these girls that he's at the school, he is now being forced to take on the role of a gymnastic teacher. And the real hitch is he is a French gay gymnastics teacher. To of course keep the girls' minds off of him, because of course now he's gay, so therefore he's unattainable. So that will suddenly make them not think he's a hot bod. Which makes no sense.
Told these writers that girls aren't attracted to hot gay men.
Right. So whatever. Yeah,
it's a fun book, but you probably can't think about it too much.
Yeah.
The other flaw is this insistence of putting this member of Stormwatch, I keep forgetting his name.
Midnighter
in it. I mean, he's clearly just stuck in there because of some editorial mandate or something. He doesn't fit the storyline.
Yeah.
Anyway, I like it a lot. So.
I like it better than Nightwing.
I never read Nightwing.
I read Nightwing up to like issue 9 or something like that. So, but what else do you want to talk about?
Speaking of serious books.
Yeah.
Justice League 3000.
Yeah. So beginning of a new arc, right?
I was a bit surprised that they're continuing the storyline with Cadmus and that guy who runs Cadmus.
Yeah, I thought that would be done. I thought for now anyway that might come back later on, but that we wouldn't see any more of that. They beat them, but I guess they had to kind of explain, okay, we beat them, but what did we do with them? So some of them get locked away in a mythical prison on Camelot 9, and of course the main bad guy gets away. They let him go.
And he's already created his anti-Justice League.
Which, of course, are on the cover there. So you've got a new version of Bane, Zeus, Mirror Master, what's the yellow lantern? Sinestro. And Lois Lane.
That's the interesting part. Lois Lane hates this Justice League in this.
So what happened to Lois Lane somewhere along the way for her to be somebody who loathes the Justice League? So we assume that's probably going to be our next part of our next story. Is the fact is that now the Injustice League has been created, the Society of Evil or whatever they're going to call themselves, and will clearly be the next conflict with our.
Right. And they practically beg you throughout, from the front pages to check out the last page of who appears on the last page.
Right. Right. Which, of course...
I still enjoyed this, but I did wish they just kind of dropped the Cadmus plot and the Five for a while, and they could have just had a fun adventure on Camelot because that's a really cool setting.
Mm-hmm.
But instead, like some of them are off fighting demons on Camelot, but we're not. That's not even worth telling a story about, according to them.
Right. Right. Basically, this is a setup. They're going to create themselves a hall of justice or a base there, and move forward with whatever that might be, which we don't know. The lady who kind of came up with the idea of how to recreate them, how to resurrect them all, has got big plans for them, which probably is going to be fine with them because they have no real goals in life anymore because they've been brought back from the dead in some sense and don't really have a direction other than being superheroes. So
yeah,
that's kind of what they're going to do. So yeah, I like this issue. It was set up for what's coming next. I'm excited to see how they write the characters they're at the very end of this, surprised at the very end of this. Of course, I don't. Anybody who's reading this knows or is paying attention at all because of the solicitations. It's the original Blue Beetle and Booster Gold, not recreations, but they actually. There's a prison planet that used to be Earth. They were in a deep freeze cryo chamber, and while they're doing some construction to build new tenant houses for prisoners, they find this chamber and they crack it open, and inside of it is Booster Gold and
they're the old 52 versions.
Yeah, Ted Cord, and which they were a riot back in the day. If you read their comics that they were in back in the day, if you read the Justice League International, they were hilarious and fun and great together. That's why still to this day you type in Blue Beetle, Booster Gold, you'll see tons of people cosplaying them together and whatnot because they were just fun guys together, written by these guys. So it'll either be really fun to have them back and these guys doing them again, or it will be too much of them trying to dredge up and try to recreate something they had before, and it'll fall flat. So.
Well, they're doing such a great job already, there's certainly no need to bring up the past, so hopefully they'll just have fun with it.
I think they will, because of how they've been kind of playing with the rest of it. I think it's going to be hilarious to have these characters, show up, and with the way the characters we already have, the way they act, how egotistical like Superman is, for instance, and whatnot, and the clash between him and Booster, I think will just be very humorous. So.
Yeah. You're right that this is just a setup issue, but I didn't even notice that because it was so well done that I enjoyed even just being set up for next issue.
Yeah. Swamp Thing?
Another great Charles Soule Swamp Thing, I thought. After maybe the less exciting annual, although the annual was fine. But
yeah, but if you didn't read that annual, you'd be going, why the heck is what's-her-name down under the ground?
Annual has an important piece of information in it. So yeah. It definitely looks different now that there's a new colorist on it, Matt Hollingsworth. It looks really good, but it's definitely it's different than when Matthew Wilson was on it.
Yeah. Yeah.
But there was lots of cool stuff. I like them, even though when I first heard they were doing it, it's like another Avatar thing. But I like the machine intelligence world. Soule does them really well, and I enjoyed the meeting with Abby Arcane.
I really thought at the end of this book, when the machines decide that they need to pick an avatar because they're trying to decide something, and I was thinking, oh no, I thought they were going to pick Anton.
Arcane?
Yeah, I thought they were going to pick him. I'm thinking, oh no, they're going to recycle that guy. We're going to get we're only a few issues away. It feels like from still having had the rot, and with Abigail back in it, and I was just really worried that was going to be. I kind of am really curious about the person they've chosen. That's going to could be really fun, I think.
Yeah, it's a good choice, and I'm glad he didn't forget about her because he's developed her as an interesting character already. Yeah.
And I like how he deals with the machines. The machines do not get one over on him. He kind of always kind of gets beat up to start with, and he has to kind of figure out what he's doing. Where here it's just like, no, I have nothing to do with this. And he just basically pulverizes them all.
Right.
Rips them apart and says, this is how it's going to be. Yeah. So
And
really,
it's clever that the machines have set themselves up. Where is it? At Antarctica, where there's no
right.
plants.
Yeah.
Um, it's everything is really well done. I'm glad he still has a few more. I guess he has 4 more issues to go.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I don't know who can replace him. This is pretty daunting. I feel like his run has been the best since Alan Moore's run that I've
Yeah.
read.
Yeah. I mean, I like the Scott Snyder, but his is better. I actually enjoy this better.
Yeah.
Partially because I think the Scott Snyder thing got tainted by the whole Rot World thing.
Yeah, true.
Yeah. But, yeah. Earth 2. Are you reading Earth 2?
No, I dropped it. I didn't even know it came out this week.
Yeah, it came out. I've dropped it too. This is just one of the final issues I get before it runs out. This is 3 stories basically showing us, 4 stories, showing us where the 4 Furies come from. I'm assuming that's also addressed in the weekly Earth 2.
I think all of the weeklies have been about the Furies so far.
Yes. So I'm not getting the weekly. So
Right.
showing me these new Furies and how where they come from and whatnot, I don't know that I care. There were no Earth 2 heroes in this at all. This was purely just, just that, where they all come from.
Are these Jack Kirby's Furies or some new ones?
No, these are not Jack Kirby's Furies. There's a Fury that's like Pestilence. That's a Cartesian, or however you say what Lobo is. She's that race that they scoop up. This woman who is pregnant with, we're assuming Darkseid's child. She is a Martian. She is a Martian like Miss Martian and Martian Manhunter. This is a Tamaranian like Starfire, who was a child. And this is a woman from Warworld. She was like Mongol's champion, and they steal her away. Beowulf steals her away from, or Steppenwolf, steals her away from Warworld. Which I'm assuming all that stuff happened in the past somewhere to get us to where the Furies are at now. The only thing in this that even had anything in it that was briefly in any version of Earth 2 was it does briefly have Barda in it, and Barda is training children to be the next Furies.
Huh.
And so I'm assuming this is set in the past somewhere. And,
Right, when she was still a follower of Darkseid.
Right, but that's not Jack Kirby, though. That wasn't a Kirby storyline, was it? Do you remember?
She was trained in Kirby's storyline. Barda was a member of the Furies who were trained by Granny Goodness.
Oh, okay. So that is somewhat
she
attached.
fell in love with Scott Free, and the two of them escaped Apocalypse together to Earth.
Okay.
And so often the Furies were trying to get Barda back.
Right. Okay. I knew there was some conflict there, but I guess I didn't realize it was that because most of my friend reference of Barda is so far removed from that wasn't even part of any storyline or the Mr. Miracle stuff, which it doesn't really come up a whole lot in that either, really. But, okay. Cool. But yeah, I feel like I'm only getting told why I don't understand why I'm being told this. The last issue we had our normal cast of characters had just gone through this fight, and then all of a sudden we're having this other story, which clearly is telling me that if I'm not getting both books or I'm not getting the weekly, I'm kind of doomed at this point. So.
Yeah, I feel like for once I made a very smart choice and dropped Earth 2 at just the right moment. They had a nice happy ending, they had a really nice run, and it's all gone away now.
Yeah, like I said, it's unfortunate. And the last DC book I got was the final issue of Superman Unchained, issue number 9 for $4.99. This book started out almost 2 years ago, and here we are on issue 9, just to give you an idea of the delays involved with the book. I think it was extra thick. The cover is a wraparound cover.
That's always nice.
which is kind of cool. You know, it's nice paper. You know, even though it's a bunch of floating heads of all the stuff that happened in the background back there, and whatnot. You know, it ended kind of how I thought it was going to end. You know, Superman is basically Lex Luthor sets Superman up to destroy this alien race that's coming down to invade the world. So Lex Luthor, of course, is going to be happy because the world's going to get saved, or it's going to get saved. Plus, he's going to get rid of Superman, who he hates. Wraith basically takes his place, you know, because Wraith was kind of like the soldier to get things started, to basically ferment the earth so this race could come down and harvest it. But Wraith didn't really realize that. Wraith basically is kind of invested in the earth like everybody else is, because this is where he spent his entire existence, really. So he ends up making the sacrifice. That doesn't get written very well, but that's ultimately what happens. The thing that's most curious about the book for me is there's a moment where Superman's getting ready to go up and you know, basically meet his maker. He's going to go up and fight as many of them as he can, and then inject himself with this stuff and become this uber super bomb that's going to just annihilate everything. And he's getting ready to go up. Lois stops him, and they have this kind of moment here, right, where they hug. And that could be just a friendly hug, but this exchange of panels down the side of, you know, this kind of extra long embrace and looking into each other's eyes and this slowly letting go of each other feels very reminiscent of the old Superman, right? With the relationship with Lois and stuff. It makes all sense for me as an old Superman reader who has not read Superman of the New 52. But that doesn't match up with the New 52 Superman, does it? Has he had kind of any kind of even close to that kind of relationship with Lois?
Not in what I've read, but I haven't read everything.
Right, and clearly he's got a girlfriend, you know, and her name is Wonder Woman.
Yeah.
Not the person I'd want to be.
He also has stuff with Lana Lang going on.
So, okay, see, so I don't. To me, it was just really. I don't know, maybe it's written and drawn wrong, but it felt different than thank you for saving us and oh my gosh, I think you're going to your death. It felt more than that. It felt like there was some other connection. But to me,
maybe Jim Lee doesn't know about the Wonder Woman relationship.
And neither does Scott Ryder. Oh, he doesn't, even though he drew that cover of the two of them that's so famous of them kissing, right?
Them kissing.
Yeah, so it was what it was. It just kind of, it was a Superman story. Falls under the category of yet another Superman story that I tried, and it wasn't horrible, but I didn't care either. So
maybe without underwear, Superman's become more of a stud.
Is that it? Oh, okay. He's a player now. Oh.
He feels looser and more free.
Oh, okay. I don't.
So, does this reduce your opinion of Scott Snyder, or just make you think he's not a good Superman writer?
It wasn't a bad story. It just was. So either he went, yeah, I'd like to take a shot at Superman story, or they went, hey, do you want to read a Superman story? And he went, oh, sure, what the hell? You know, I don't know if he was like super excited and like, I have these burning, you know, Superman stories in me I need to get out, or you know, if this is just an opportunity to write a Superman story, and he said, oh, sure, what the heck? And so he wrote a story. It wasn't bad. It wasn't a bad story, but it wasn't like he didn't create anything that made me excited about Superman or him writing a Superman story or anything like that. Does that make sense? I mean, I'm not, you know, it wasn't like bad or anything. It just wasn't, there was nothing special about it either.
I guess in a way the whole thing was a team-up stunt, the team-up being of the two top people at DC.
Right. Which hurt it really, because it took so long for it to come out, because the art took so long to get, that it probably would be an enjoyable read to read all in one shot. Yeah, because, you know, it's Jim Lee art, you know, it is big and bold and bright and all that great stuff. But, you know, it took almost 2 years to get 9 issues.
Yeah.
You know, because 2 years ago, basically, you know, I was at a con, and on Scott Snyder's phone, he was showing us, me and 3 other guys that were standing in line to get our comics sold, he was showing us the interior art for the book. So I mean, it's been 2 years. I don't know. It just too long. Too long for 9 issues, and it wasn't that special. It wasn't like where Nemo, where it's this kind of you're getting something special, so you don't mind waiting 2 months per book. And maybe that was the problem. Is it wasn't that this just took so long? It was inconsistent as to when it was coming out. If they were going to, if right at the beginning they said every 90 days you're going to get an issue, I would have been prepared for it, and I would have read it differently, making those choices. As opposed to God knows when the next issue is going to come out, kind of thing.
Yeah.
So that's it for my DC books. You got any other DC books you want to talk about?
Just Scooby-Doo Team Up. If you like the Flintstones and Scooby-Doo, this is a very good book.
Fun kids book.
And I haven't got to read the Tiny Titans Return to the Treehouse yet, but I'm sure that will be great too, as it always is.
Cool. So we got any DC stuff we want to talk about? As far as outside of our books?
I feel like there was something, but I can't think of it now.
Yeah, I can't either.
It is feeling like we've been talking a long time.
Yes. So we're going to call it a night, because it has been a long time, actually. So thank you guys for coming and talking comics with me. Hopefully next week we get more of those people on. They're trying to get on. I know Wonky Ninja was chomping at the bit to talk about some books that none of us read. I think Imperial was one of the books he wanted to talk about. I have no idea what that book is, so or was it Empire? I can't remember. At any rate, so check out his videos, so I'm sure he's talking about it in his videos. We'll get him on here at some point. We'll get those other people that'll be on. Hopefully next week I'm going to twist Jen, a comic book girl's arm hard enough. We'll get her on to talk comics too, because I know she's back getting some books and stuff. So hope to get her back on next week. But
more John DaCosta.
Get John on. I don't know. Maybe John only comes on if you dress up in costume. So he was briefly in the comments singing some Tina Turner songs, so maybe we can get him on to sing some songs for us.
What inspired him to think of Tina Turner, I wonder? I can't remember.
I have no idea. It must be me.
I think, maybe it was his memories of you in drag.
Yes. Yeah.
Wonky Ninja, I think at one point was maybe backing up saying my comic book store is more crowded now, because he said, listen to the background noise in my pull video, there are 20 people in my shop.
Yeah, I know. Anyway, thank you guys for hanging out with me, and thank everybody who was watching, and the 8 viewers that hung around through us talking comic books, and I'm sure we'll be back next week to talk more books.
Thanks for being a great host.
Thank you.
Have a good night, everybody.